Hey guys, so I feel like I've been talking about posting this video forever now, but it's finally here. Today I'm going to be giving you my tips and tricks when it comes to finding the best and cheapest thrifted and vintage pieces. I'm talking about the best shit you have ever laid your eyes on. I'm going to teach you how to find them. And make sure to stay till the end because I'm going to have a thrift haul that will include prices and where I found those unique pieces. As some of you may know, I have a vintage shop online that I've had for a few years now, so I'd like to think I have a few tips and tricks that I use when it comes to finding my best stuff that you may not know about. So maybe you've been looking for a new vase, a side table, Levi's jeans, or that trendy blouse. Today I'm going to show you where and how to find it and for the cheapest. And I'm probably going to regret giving you all my secrets, but it sounds like a good idea now. And real quick, before I jump into the video, I wanted to thank Green Chef for partnering with today's video. Green Chef is a USDA certified organic company that offers meal delivery kits for a variety of lifestyles, including vegan, vegetarian, paleo, and keto. On their website, you simply pick which meal type is right for you, the number of people you want to serve in each meal, and how many meals you want per week. And each week, Green Chef offers 9 different recipes for you to choose from. And once your order is in, Green Chef offers contactless deliveries to your doorstep each week. Everything you need to cook the meals comes in a convenient recyclable box, including easy to follow step-by-step recipe cards, and I really enjoy the images for each step. It makes it impossible to mess up. Then packed in recyclable packaging, each one of your meals comes in a labeled paper bag. If you ordered a recipe with me, it will be packed near the bottom under ice packs. And what I really love is most of their packaging is recyclable. Then when you're ready to cook a meal, simply grab the correct bag and recipe card. Every ingredient you'll need for the recipe comes in the bag, and they're already pre-portioned and measured out, so there's really no measuring required, making it even easier. And just like that, you have an easy home-cooked meal without the meal planning, shopping, or food prep. If you'd like to try Green Chef, you can get $90 off and free shipping on your first box by going to greenchef.us/90 Brooklyn Bloom and use code 90 Brooklyn Bloom. I'll leave a link to their website and the code in the description below. And now, back to the video. First, we're going to start with where to find the pieces you're looking for. Now, I know you might be thinking, like, duh, thrift stores. And yes, this is one of them. There are actually many other places to find these hidden gems that you may not know about. But let's start easy and we'll start at thrift stores. Now you might think you can just go to any thrift store to find what you're looking for. Wrong. When it comes to finding thrift stores that have a better selection and those hidden gems, always keep these 3 things in mind. Number 1, pick the right neighborhoods. Different parts of town are going to have a better selection than others. So maybe you live in a really young, trendy part of town and you think, I'll just go to the thrift store right up the street. Well, more than likely, all the gems are going to be gone already, or the selection isn't going to be that good to begin with. Why? Because young people live in that neighborhood, so they're the ones that are donating to that thrift store. And not to be mean, but most younger people don't have that much money. Everything that's getting donated there is probably kind of not the greatest. So the pieces at that thrift store aren't going to be quite as nice, as rare, as expensive as maybe what you're looking for. I mean, yeah, there probably is still some good stuff, but not as much of a selection as we want. So I recommend going to thrift stores in neighborhoods where the age group is a little bit older and where they make a little bit more money. I've also found if you go to thrift stores kind of on the edge of a city, like the suburbs, or if you live on a state line, go to the next state over. And I've had better luck at these thrift stores because they're not in such a populated area, so not as many people are going to those thrift stores. I've also had really good luck, especially when looking for those vintage gems and going to a smaller town. Who lives in smaller towns? Older people. Who's donating to those thrift stores? Older people. So those small towns are going to have a lot more of those vintage gems than a really trendy young part of the city is. And again, a lot of people don't go to these thrift stores because it's not in a very populated space, or older people aren't looking for the same things that a younger person is looking for. Number 2, don't go to chain thrift stores, or don't just go to them. I actually have better luck at the non-chain thrift stores like church charity shops. Oh my gosh, I find some of the best stuff at those. Why? because it's mostly older ladies that are donating to those church charity shops. Or make sure to go to that weird thrift store that's in the basement of a house that looks kind of sketchy, or that thrift store that's down an alley that's only open like 2 hours one day a week. Those places have hidden pieces because, most people overlook them or they just don't want to go to them. And number 3, any new thrift store, meaning make sure to keep your eyes open for any new thrift stores that are opening, because usually that first week or even that first month that they're open, they're going to have some really good pieces, because a lot of people maybe don't know it's open yet or they haven't heard about it. So you're going to be able to find more of those things you're looking for because it hasn't been overpicked yet. Now we're going to move on to some places that you may not have thought about for finding those pieces you're looking for. And this next one is probably my favorite of all the places to find those gems and thrifted pieces: estate sales. So an estate sale usually takes place in the seller's home, and sometimes the person has passed away, or maybe they're just downsizing and they're selling most or all of their possessions. Not always, but usually it's older people that have estate sales, so you can find some truly unique vintage pieces. Most estate sales are on the weekends, and you can go to estatesales.net to find sales going on in your area. And most estate sales have really a little bit of everything, clothing, home decor, kitchen stuff, furniture. They really have it all. So how an estate sale works, you usually just go into the person's house and everything is laid out. Everything will have a sticker price on it, and any item that's over $100, usually you do something what's called a bid. So let's say you go to an estate sale, and there's a couch, and you really like it. It's $200. Well, if you want, you can buy it for $200 and you get it.
Mine.
Otherwise, if you want to get a deal, you can make a bid on it and say you'll bid $150. Well, if you have the highest bid at the end of the day, then you get to take it home. But if somebody else is like, oh, well, I really want it, they can outbid you, and then they can have a bid for $160, and then they would end up getting it. And then usually at the end of the day, the company will call you and let you know if you won the bid. Now, the next place to find the gems and pieces you're looking for is online. Specifically, I've had good luck finding vintage pieces on sites like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and Letgo. Then if you're looking for more clothing, I recommend Depop, Poshmark, or Mercari. Now I know you may be thinking, Facebook? I don't go on Facebook. And I totally get that, but Facebook Marketplace is amazing. Why? Because think about it, who uses Facebook? Your parents, your grandparents, older people. So they're usually selling older vintage pieces, and they're usually really cheap. Whenever I move to a new city and I need furniture for my new apartment, I get almost all of my stuff from Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. Whether you're looking for older or newer pieces, those sites have everything, and people are always posting new stuff. Now, when it comes to buying secondhand and vintage clothing, Depop has an amazing selection, but as you probably know, you're going to pay quite a bit more on there than you would at the thrift store. So if I'm ever looking for something specific and I can't find it at the thrift store, I'll usually go to Depop, especially if it's a vintage piece. Now, Poshmark and Mercari also have used clothing, and their prices I feel are definitely better than Depop's, but if you're looking for vintage pieces, they're a little bit harder to find on those two sites, or you really have to hunt for them. What's really nice about these sites though is that if you're looking for something specific, you can save your search, and then if anybody ever posts something that is that item, you'll get a notification. And the last places for thrifting and finding those gems are garage sales and flea markets. Now that the weather is getting nicer, make sure to keep your eye open for garage sale signs, or you can also go to Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, or check your paper for upcoming garage sales. Most happen on the weekend, and you can get some crazy good deals at garage sales. Now, flea or vintage markets usually have a surplus of items in one big area, and it is multiple vendors. Depending on where you live though, the prices can be a little bit higher. Like when I lived in New York, prices were pretty high at a flea market, but now that I'm in the Midwest, prices are pretty cheap. These are also really good if you're looking for a specific item. I feel like usually you'll have multiple options at a market versus at a thrift store you might just find one piece. Next is going to be how to find those gems and at a cheaper price. We all love finding those unique pieces, but I'm going to show you where to find them and for cheaper. So the first thing is to go thrifting on days that they're having sales. For instance, almost always the last day of an estate sale, everything is half price. it's usually a Sunday or a Monday. So maybe you go to an estate sale on a Saturday and you see something you really like, but it's a little bit too out of your budget. Well, just come back the next day if it ends on Sunday, and maybe it's still there and you'll get it for half price. If you're going on the day that it ends, maybe go earlier in the morning to make sure you get that piece. Then most thrift stores have a colored tag of the week that is discounted. This is usually at the front of the store, and then any tag that color will be discounted that much. It's also a good idea to find out which day they start the new color tag sale and go those first few days before everything gets picked over. And the next tip is look through every section. Now, I know you've heard of looking through the men's, but what about looking through the kids? Specifically the boys. Now, I know some people may not be okay with this because they feel like you're taking away from children. I think if you do it every once in a while, you're not going in and grabbing a bunch of items, and you know you're definitely going to wear the piece, I think it's okay. But if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Don't do it. Everybody can have their own opinion. No lie, I found my favorite pair of jeans ever in the little boys section. They're this vintage pair of Wranglers, and they're kind of like a gray denim. I think they're like a 14 junior, and they fit me so perfect. What's nice is boys and men's clothes are usually a little bit bigger and baggier, so some of you might be able to fit into those larger boy sizes. And back to the men's section, as you probably know, don't overlook this section. Now that the trend is a little bit baggier and bigger, I have found some really good men's coats that are maybe a little bit too small on a guy, but they work perfect for women. And don't forget even guys' shoes. Just don't overlook anything. Look in every section. You never know what you're going to find. And the next tip is to go through every item. I can't tell you how many times I found unique pieces by doing this simple step. I know it can take a bit longer, but trust me, it is usually worth it. Go through each hanger, take your time. When you're looking at things on the shelves, get down low and look at the bottom shelf where people can't see. Get on your tippy toes, look on the top shelves. If something's in front, move things out of the way. Look at every spot and really take your time. See the item and absorb it into your brain. Don't just scan it. Really think and look at everything. Now, the next few tips kind of apply for finding the cheapest prices and getting a better deal. Now, the next tip is to always check the item for rips, stains, chips, defects, anything of that sort. And then because of that, you won't end up wearing it or using it. Meaning, really, you just wasted your money. But also, if you're okay with the defect, you could always talk to the seller, whether it be a thrift store, estate sale, Facebook Marketplace, a flea market, and see if they'll work with you on taking a few dollars off or maybe even cutting the price in half. It's always worth a try. And the next tip, which I think is one of the most important when getting something at a better deal, is don't be afraid to haggle or negotiate the price. Now, I know this might be harder to do at an actual thrift store unless the item is cracked, chipped, has some type of defect on it, but definitely try this on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Letgo, Depop, Mercari, Poshmark, and you can also do this at estate sales, flea or vintage markets, and garage sales. Whenever I'm buying something online from one of those places I just listed, I always make an offer lower than the asking price. I never offer the asking price, and almost 99% of the sellers on there expect to receive an offer lower than their asking price. I always start with a lower offer and then work my way up to where me and the seller agree on a price. But I always get a better deal than the full asking price. And also, garage sales, estate sales, and flea markets are great places to haggle and negotiate a price. I feel like they almost expect it there, and most likely they will cut you some kind of deal. I've noticed if you go on the last day of a market, usually you can get a little bit better deals because they want to get rid of everything. You can also try this at estate sales, but I recommend trying it more on the day that the estate sale is ending. I feel like they're usually more willing to make offers and haggle with you on the days that something's going to end. And just remember, the worst somebody can do is say no. So I feel like it's always worth a try to at least get a little bit better of a deal. But honestly, I feel like if you're nice about it, you're probably going to get some type of discount. So this next tip is one I found that most people actually don't know, and it is to always check the label or the bottom of a piece. Why? To put it simply, to see if you found a gem or not, and to see if it's vintage. And if you're thinking, just because it's vintage doesn't mean it's a gem, well, then you probably don't know that older things were made way better than they are today. Meaning better quality, which means it's going to last longer. If I ever have a choice between something newer or something vintage, I almost always choose something vintage. Why? Because it's going to last that much longer, because it was made to last. Things today just aren't made to last. They're made to be replaced. So a good way to know if a piece of clothing, or really anything, is vintage is if the tag reads Made in USA. 9 times out of 10, if it reads Made in the USA, it's probably vintage, meaning it's at least 20 years old. As you know, most items are not made in the United States now, so most things are going to read Made in China or any place that's not the United States. So by finding a Made in USA tag, sticker, or stamp is a super easy way to tell if you found a vintage piece or something newer. And then along the same lines, if it's not an article of clothing, you always want to check a piece for any type of date or sticker, brands, or engraving. Usually it's going to be on the bottom of a piece. Then once you've found that engraving or that brand, your best friend is going to be Google. So take this ceramic dish I found. Once I flipped it over, there was a little bit of an engraving. So what I would do is I would go to Google, I'd type in what the item looks like. So I would say vintage round ceramic dish, and then also type next to that any kinds of engraving or brands that you found on the item, and then search it. Now you can go through the shopping, but where I have the best luck is looking through Google Images, because maybe sometimes somebody isn't selling that piece right now, but under Google Images, usually somebody has sold it in the past, and then you can see how much the item has sold for or what it's currently going for. And this is a great way to know if that piece is actually worth money and if you really did find a gem or something that's pretty common and easy to find. And the same can be done with clothing. Simply describe the item in a few short words and then add the brand or any type of markings you find in the tag, and you'll probably find it somewhere on Google, and you can see if you found a gem or something that everybody finds that maybe isn't vintage or is vintage, but there's a lot of them, so it's not really worth anything. But I love doing this. I can't tell you how many times I found something that looks pretty basic. Oh, that's not worth any money. And then you flip it over and you see some type of engraving or something on the bottom, and then you look it up and you've got a $50 piece that you just paid $1 for. And another tip, which I know I talked about a little bit before, but it will probably save you the most money and you'll find the best deals, is thrifting outside of the city and in smaller towns. Prices are always going to be higher in a more populated part of town, as well as the selection just isn't going to be as good. So don't be afraid to head towards the suburbs and even those smaller towns, because they truly do have the cheapest prices. And my last tip, which is something that really only applies to these very strange times we are living in, where unfortunately thrift store dressing rooms are closed, to make sure to wear an outfit that allows you to actually try the clothes on. Because most thrift stores unfortunately don't let you return things, and when you can't try something on, it's such a bummer when you get home and it doesn't fit. So like if I'm going to the thrift store and I know I'm looking for some jeans, I'll usually wear a short dress that allows me to just put the jeans under my dress, or a really thin pair of leggings that I can try the jeans over that. Otherwise, I do know a trick you can use to know if a pair of jeans or pants will fit you without trying them on. Like I found this cute pair of jeans, but the dressing room was closed. So what you can do is take the waist and put it around your neck. If the two ends meet around your neck with like a ½ inch to an inch of where they overlap in fabric, then they should fit your waist. And then if I'm looking for tops or blouses, usually I'll wear like a spaghetti strap or a tank top that if I try something over it, it's not going to ruin the fit of it. Luckily, I've gotten my shot, so I am a bit more lax when it comes to trying clothes on at the thrift store. But as soon as I get home, the clothes I bought are going in the washing machine, as well as the clothes that I was wearing to the thrift store. So I thought I would do just a little haul real quick of things that I have found recently, and I have found these pieces at all the different places that I mentioned, but I'll include prices and where I found them so you can kind of get an idea of the type of pieces that you can find if you really look for them, and by using the tips and tricks that I mentioned. So this first thing is a pair of vintage mud shoes, and I actually got these on Poshmark. They were $15, which is definitely more than you would pay at the thrift store. And when I saw these, I thought they would be perfect for summer and would probably look cute when worn with socks, right? I hope so. Then I picked up these vintage ceramic stackable mugs at a thrift store for $2 each. They're the same shape but different designs, and they both have a Made in USA stamp on the bottom. And this mug I got at a flea market for 25 cents because it had a little chip in it, but I think it's still really cute. And next are these silver metal shell-shaped trinket dishes. I got them for $1 each at an estate sale, and this one even has like cute little feet on the bottom. Now this next find is a little vintage cutting board that came with a knife that kind of hangs on the side. I already have a cutting board, but when I saw this, I thought it would make the perfect little plant stand. I got it at an estate sale, half price for $4, and now it's a little plant stand in my bedroom. I think it works pretty well. This little weird thing I got at an estate sale for $5. It's some type of vintage wood tray with a little handle. It is a little scratched on the bottom, but that's okay. Okay, these green vintage glass plates I am in love with. So I have a bunch of like vintage mismatched plates, bowls, and cups that I use for eating, and I just had to have these when I saw them. They were only $1.50 each at a church charity shop. And then I found this semi-matching pink plate at the same charity shop for only $2, and I had to have it. Now for something not vintage, I got these little heels at a Goodwill that had just opened, and they seriously look like they've never been worn. They were $3, and they're from Target by the brand A New Day. I'm just a sucker for anything with a cute little buckle. Next is this huge vintage 5-gallon glass water jug that I got for $5, and it was in a super creepy basement of this estate sale. These go for at least $100 online. And now for some clothing. I got this super cute embroidered sweater vest at a church charity shop for $2. I'm in love with it. It's so unique and kind of dorky. And then I picked up this vintage 1970s denim Wrangler jacket at a Goodwill for $6. And guess where? In the men's section. This is definitely one of those finds that I just couldn't believe, even has the Made in USA tag. Next is this vintage brown Coach purse that I found at a thrift store that had just opened for $10, and it even has the Coach stamp inside. This next piece is probably one of my favorite finds ever. It's a vintage Yashica medium format camera, and I about died when I found this. If you know anything about vintage cameras, you'll understand. But I found this at an estate sale for half price, and it was only $60. These sell for at least $300 plus online. So yeah, this was such a good find. So I think those are about all of the thrifting tips I have for now. If you have any good tips that you think maybe I forgot, I would love to know what they are in the comments. And I've been thinking about posting more thrifting videos, specifically thrift hauls, and just kind of tagging along with me when I go to estate sales and thrift stores. If you think this is something you'd be interested in, I would love to know in the comments, because I like knowing what type of content you guys like to see. And besides, I like doing those things anyway, so I feel like it could be a win-win for the both of us. As always, thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Listen up, I gotta tell you, there is something you should